Joe, good to see you doing. Evening. Comatose, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Pure, good to see you as well. How you doing? Evening. Mike, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good day. Yeah, I was going to start the live a little bit earlier on today, but I had some issues of restream. But the issues are fixed now. Dennis, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? But there's a lot of things to go through on tonight's live. Come on, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? So, on this episode of the CMF Live, we are going to be talking about why the market is down today. And according to the new CPI data that's just recently came out, we're going to go through the data points. We're also going to go through on tonight's live show regarding why Ethereum is not doing too well regarding their ETF, mainly because of Grayscale and some other reasons, which we're going to go through on tonight's live show. But a few executives decided to come out and give their perspectives on the matter with CoinDesk interview why Ethereum is not doing too great on their ETFs, and could there be a turnaround for Ethereum? We're also going to talk about tonight's live show regarding ETF investors. As in, ETF investors prefer for going actually for crypto ETFs rather than other ETFs. There's actually been a study test that was done by a massive asset management firm. And according to them, we're going to be expecting a lot of investors coming inside the cryptocurrency space towards the end of this year and more into next year. We're also going to talk about some incredibly unusual news. Justin Sun, the founder of Tron, basically, he's going to become a prime minister. So Justin Sun is about to become a prime minister of a country. So we're going to go through that on tonight's live show as well. We're also going to talk about a particular cryptocurrency asset that's just been green-lighted by a US government department, but it's not what you think. We're also going to talk about tonight's live show regarding the SEC. A member of the SEC has decided to come out today and talk about how Gary Gensler is an incompetent person for a chairman of the SEC. He did it in a live interview. We're also going to talk about tonight's live show regarding the SEC at the same time today suing another crypto firm. And that crypto firm is apparently selling unregistered securities, just as usual, the SEC when they sue anybody. But apparently Solana, Filecoin, and a few other cryptocurrencies are securities, according to the SEC now. So the dreams of a Solana ETF seemed a bit far-fetched now. We're also going to talk about on tonight's live show regarding CBDCs. Australia, Canada, and Colombia apparently pausing their CBDC plans, and there's a reasoning why, which we're going to go through on tonight's live show as well. There's a banking reason why. We're also going to talk about tonight's live regarding BlackRock, the giant investment company, Fidelity, are taking a massive step, another milestone step inside the cryptocurrency space. We're also going to talk about tonight's live show 12 countries essentially dropping the US dollar, a conduct of majority of trade in local currencies while eyeing crypto. But it's not what you think. It's not BRICS reasonings. It's a different reasonings why 12 countries have decided to drop the United States dollar. We're also going to talk about tonight's live show regarding the German MP. The German MP, Jonah Carter, has decided to voice his reasonings that Bitcoin should be essentially a national asset for freedom. We're also going to talk about tonight's live show regarding Russia calling upon BRICS partners to create their own version of the International Monetary Fund. We're also going to go through the news topic on tonight's live show regarding Ripple, essentially filing in their essentially counter appeal to what the SEC has said. We're going to go through that as well on tonight's live show. We're also going to talk about Ripple launching a crypto custody service as well on tonight's live show. There's also a mixture of news to go through on tonight's live regarding 12 countries leaving the United States, regarding Canada, Australia, and Colombia essentially pausing their CBDC programs, regarding a lot of things to go through on tonight's live show, to be fairly honest. And that's why I decided to start a little bit earlier, but I couldn't at the same time because Restream was having some difficulty issues. Now, before I go through any of that news, I just want to say welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, this is the CMF Live show, stands for Crypto Mouse Family. On this live, I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations, and even BRICS. And we also do Q&As on this live as well, which means if you have any questions, put them down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. So if you're watching this for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF Live. And if you're a regular, let's go CMF. The live show has officially started now. And I just want to say thank you so much to everyone that's retweeting this live right now, right at the beginning, retweeting on X, liking on X. Thank you so much to everyone that's doing that, getting notifications. Thanks so much to everyone on YouTube who's watching this right now, as well, who's also liking the live as well. And thanks so much to everyone that's been retweeting my retweeting my CMF X community page tweets as well recently. So thanks so much to everyone for that as well. Let's go inside the comment section first before we go through the first news on why the market is reacting the way it is right now. It's mostly to do with the CPI data that just came out. We're going to go through the bullet points regarding CPI data and how it impacts the market space. Let's see where we were. Camel, good to see you, brother. How you doing? Dennis, hi, Miles. Good to see you. How you doing? Mike, let's go. Miles, how you doing? I'm doing great. Vibe, good to see you. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and all CMF. JP, good to see you, brother. How you doing? Hello, Miles and family. Carlos, good to see you. How you doing? Mikhail, good to see you. How you doing? Okay, there's a weird person inside the comment section. I'll just get rid of them. Woodhouse, good to see you. How you doing? So few countries need more time for their CBDCs at the same time the SEC appeals. What a coincidence. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Bull XLP, good to see you. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Money, good to see you. How you doing? Good evening, brother Miles and CMF family. CPI report, yes, which is about to go through it right now. What's happening tomorrow with the rate cuts? Well, we have to see. The rate cuts apparently has been priced in at 50 basis points, but we'll see. Now, hi, Miles of CMF. Stormy, good to see you as well. How you doing? Perfect timing. Paul, good to see you as well. How you doing? Happy days. So the first main topic of why is the crypto market down today? The total cryptocurrency market capitalization dipped today as a disappointing consumer price index report has just came out, the CPI data. Strengthening US dollar and declining spot trading volumes soared investor sentiments. Over the last 24 hours, the total crypto market capitalization dropped by 2.4%. to about $2 trillion, roughly. Elevated September CPI data shocks investors. According to the data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, inflation rose by 0.2% month over and essentially 2.4% year on year. The market is expecting a 0.1% gain over the month and a 2.3% annual increase. Markets reacted by immediately reassessing the likelihood of the Federal Reserve pausing interest rates in November. Following the Fed's aggressive start to its rate cutting essentially regime with a larger 0.5% reduction in September, crypto prices experienced a sizable rallies as investors expected an equally large rate cut during what's about to come, but maybe not. According to the essentially CME Fed Watch, the chances for a 50 basis points to essentially a rate cut in November have gone to zero. So a rate cut might not be happening whatsoever. It's gone to zero, which means if we don't get a rate cut, then that means essentially the dollar is strengthening itself, the economy is doing better. In fact, the inflation data futures markets are pricing in essentially 11.6% chance the Feds leaves the rates unchanged, up from 0% 1 week ago. Also critical to that, the rate essentially cuts expectation will be this week's employment data, with uncertainties about how much the data might have been affected by the Hurricane Helene situation. As we said before, the Fed's decision to cut rates by 50 basis points was too aggressive, capital markets commentator said in a letter in a reaction to the CPI data points. It's unlikely we see an additional 50 basis points cut this year, with odds of no cut in November rising. Spot trading volumes take a hit. According to a report by cryptocurrency analyst platform CC Data, the spot trading volumes on centralized exchanges hit the lowest level since June 2024, following 3 consecutive months of pretty much nothing. The report highlighted that the combined spot and derivatives trading volumes on CEX is dropping by 17% to $4.3 trillion, recorded the lowest monthly trading activity on centralized exchanges since June. Monthly spot trading volumes on centralized exchanges fell by 17.2% to $1.27 trillion, recorded the lowest since June. The report also highlighted a decline in derivatives volumes, which decreased by 17% in September to $3 trillion, also recording the first drop in monthly volumes in 3 months. CC Data analysts said that the drop in monthly spot trading volumes aligns with the final month of seasonality which is usually categorized by lower trading volume activity. With catalysts such as the Federal Reserve's 50 basis points interest rate cuts and the upcoming US election, volatility and activity on centralized exchanges is likely to increase in the coming months. Spot Bitcoin ETF flows turn negative. Investors' risk-off sentiment is evident across the spot Bitcoin ETF space as well, where investors have been withdrawing their capital for days. As of October 10th, these ETFs had a total accumulation of flow of $18.7 billion, down about 0.7% from their peak of $18.8 billion in September. The outflow trend continued this week, with the investment vehicles witnessing $18.6 million and $40.6 million worth of withdrawals on October 8th and October 9th. These outflows coincide with the rise in the US dollar strength versus a basket of top foreign currencies, as tracked by the US dollar index. Yesterday was also revealed that China's economy is not doing too well. When the Chinese markets opened up yesterday, they did crash slightly, and the US dollar strengthened, and today it's strengthening a bit more. The analysts shared that the charts that are showing the DXY was fighting resistance from the 10-weekly movings average at 102.9 and hopped on the index as short-lived rally. A stronger dollar often signals a lower risk appetite among many investors, which helps explain the accelerating outflows from Bitcoin ETFs and the diminishing trading activity across exchanges. So CPI data comes through, and ironically, the dollar is strengthened. There's nothing wrong with the US dollar, apparently, according to essentially CPI data, and the markets reacted. When investors see that the US dollar is strengthened, they don't tend to run towards crypto assets. When they see the dollar is weakened is when they start running towards crypto assets. If we have a rate cut, then they start running towards crypto assets or even gold and silver. But apparently, the chances of the next rate cut happening this year have went to 0. That's just one outcome, but so far is the outcome on the table, that the chances of a next rate cut happening this year has went to 0. But we're still expecting volatility inside the market space due to the elections and geopolitical tensions happening around the world. But rate cuts, chances, 0, apparently. However, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan analysts have stated that if they do see a rate cut happening, it's going to be around 50 basis points. But according to the meeting that just happened, it's 0. Let's see what happens. Doing well, thanks you. I'm doing great, Woodhouse. Can you ask ChatGPT is Jesus? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Orphan, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, Miles. How are you? I'm doing great, Callie. Yo, Miles. Knox, good to see you as well. How you doing? What a great time for the dollar to be getting strengthened. Yep, a great time for the dollar to be getting strengthened because we're going to election year. The dollar has to look strengthened because it's voting season. If it doesn't look strengthened, it makes Sleepy Joe and Goldfish Kamala Harris look bad. We can't have that, can we? It's just a load of BS. They're playing around with the numbers. Remember yesterday when I said China was playing around with the numbers too much and their economy is paying for it right now? The EU's economy is not doing well. Right now, the EU economy, as I explained yesterday, the EU economy is looking at China's economy. China's economy is looking at the EU's. America's looking at everybody, and everybody's looking at America. And everybody's playing around with their numbers too much. The bigger the bubble, the bigger the burst. Simplest way to put it. But apparently the dollar is doing well for itself. How ironic. So it doesn't look like we're going to have a bull run this year. Well. A lot of things can happen from now until elections. But let me tell you, regarding one other thing, ETF investors. So ETF investors prefer crypto over bonds. Now, this was a study test that was done by Schwab's, a massive asset management firm, decided to do a study report to see if high-profile investors prefer crypto ETFs or regular ETFs, let's just say. Turns out, according to a recent survey published by Texas-based multinational financial services company Charles Schwab's, nearly half of ETF investors, 45%, plan to gain exposure to cryptocurrencies. In fact, cryptocurrencies ended up higher than bonds, 44%, and international equities, 27%. Eric, essentially one of the leading ETF analysts from Bloomberg, described the results as pretty stunning. It is worth noting that cryptocurrencies were also one of the top choices for ETF investors. In the older Charles Schwab survey that was published before the launch of Bitcoin ETFs, different story. According to essentially Eric, the most recent results show that investors' demand for cryptocurrencies is yet to be met. The recent survey shows that the total cost of the reputation of a specific ETF provider are the most important factors for ETF investors. Notably, younger investors also tend to be interested in a broader range of factors, such as liquidity and trading volume. The vast majority of ETF buyers, 65%, plan to increase their exposure in the next year when it comes to cryptocurrencies. The survey also shows that top reasons for buying these products include building wealth, rebalancing, downsizing, protection, tax optimization, and so on. So Charles Schwab does essentially a study test. And they did a previous study test as well. Before a Bitcoin ETF ever happened, Charles Schwab did a study test. And the interest for a Bitcoin ETF or any ETF was low when it came to high-profile investors. Before, when they did the study test, Charles Schwab's. Fast forward to today, when they released their new study report, it turns out everybody inside of Wall Street wants to jump inside crypto ETFs. A lot are going to be jumping in from now until the end of the year. A lot more going to be jumping in next year. And they prefer to go for crypto ETFs rather than US bonds, which is crazy to think about it, which is why essentially Eric from Bloomberg was stunned when he saw the results. It is crazy to think about it. You know, high-profile investors running towards crypto ETFs. The very asset they run away from is the asset they're running towards, and they're dropping their US bonds. So no, we're not inside some sort of a bad situation. Don't worry about it. There's high investor interest. Also, the high-profile investors actually want more diversification regarding crypto ETFs. They want something more than a Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF. Well, we know what's next for an ETF, XRP. That's just factual. I mean, there's been 2 filings, S1 filings with the SEC for XRP ETF right now. So we know what ETF is actually next. Next is XRP. On the topic of Solana also, when we talk about ETFs, so Solana was an ETF that was supposed to be happening as well. It turns out the SEC, we're going to go through it on tonight's live as well, but the SEC is going after a particular crypto firm. And this particular crypto firm was selling Solana, Filecoin, and a few other cryptocurrencies. The new SEC filing that happened today, the new lawsuit that happened today, declares Solana is security, Filecoin is security, and a few other cryptocurrencies. But we'll go through that in more detail on tonight's live. But I just want to let you know, but the next ETF that seems to be happening is XRP. So there is diversification happening right there. But it's good to see there's massive interest inside the institutional space. Massive interest, according to a report by Charles Schwab, which is massive. Now, Justin Sun is what we're going to talk about. This will probably be the most unusual news you will ever hear inside the crypto space. Justin Sun, the same man that was multiple times investigated by the United States government, the same man that's been apparently, a part of money laundering schemes, the same man that's been pumping USDT, according to some US agencies, is the same man that's about to become a prime minister. Justin Sun, the founder of Tron, is about to become prime minister of a country. This is why I said this might be the most unusual news you will ever hear. Justin Sun is about to become prime minister of Liberland. Now, you might have not heard of Liberland, and some people might be thinking, what the hell is Liberland? What kind of country is that? Well, Liberland was a country that was discovered by a man that was once traveling between Croatia and another country. And he realized on the map of Croatia and the country essentially right next to Croatia, that one part of the map wasn't on the Croatian map, and it wasn't on the neighboring countries as well. So this man found a bit of land, small piece of land, between Croatia and a few other countries that wasn't on Croatia's map, that wasn't on neighboring countries' maps as well. And he decided to create his own country called Liberland a very long time ago. Now, Liberland has had essentially difficulties from essentially neighboring countries to be able to operate as a country. But Liberland started their own parliamentary system. They started their own banking system using blockchain technology. They even handed out digital IDs and passports to get citizens in. And they're creating the world's first ever blockchain country from the ground up. And Justin Sun is going to become the Prime Minister of Liberland. Justin Sun becomes Prime Minister of the world's first blockchain-driven nation or Bitcoin-driven nation. Crypto billionaire, Tron founder Justin Sun is set to take on his new role as Prime Minister of Liberland, also known as the Free Republic of Liberland. Liberland is a self-declared micronation located on the western bank of the Dubon River between Croatia and Serbia. In addition to Justin Sun becoming Prime Minister, entrepreneur Ivan and journalist Julian were also elected to Congress of Liberland. According to the data, this micronation was founded on April 13th, 2015 by Czech politician Vit. However, the potential reasonings for electing Justin Sun as Prime Minister in his expertise in blockchain technology and his alignments with the country's current technological vision. According to the report, Liberland is the first country in the world to adapt Bitcoin, the world's biggest cryptocurrency, as its official currency. Whereas the government operates on a decentralized online platform and allows the citizens to participate directly. The micronation uses blockchain-based systems for their election to maintain transparency and accuracy in the voting process. In a recent report, it was cited that Liberland is building a BTC-centric economy and seeks collaborations with BTC-based payment infrastructure providers. We are establishing a state reserve fund in Bitcoin, open to investors during its pre-seed rounds. For this reason, the country prefers to have a major crypto personalities like Justin Sun, who have the potential to make a huge contribution to blockchain technology and projects that could benefit the nation in the future. However, Justin Sun is also known for his role as the Grand Representative to the WTO, where he served earlier. Okay, let me tell you one thing. When this Liberland was discovered in 2015, I actually, in 2017, so Liberland was discovered around 2015. In 2017, I actually joined Liberland. In 2017, I joined Liberland, but I never, applied for some sort of passport from Liberland or some sort of digital ID. But I can do if I wanted to, because I still can actually, because I signed up to Liberland's country when I first heard about it in 2017, when they were handing out digital IDs and passports. I signed up to their country before they even had those things, but I can still get one to be a part of that country. But if anybody wants to, they can go towards Liberland. But Liberland had difficulties even back in 2017. They had major difficulties back in 2017 because Serbia doesn't want Liberland to exist, neither does Croatia. But apparently now they have their own, essentially, payment systems and an entire country going on and so on. But technically, I'm some sort of a citizen of Liberland from 2017. But anyways, Liberland is going to become the capital of money laundering for cryptocurrencies. I can bet my life on it that Liberland will become the capital of money washing when it comes to cryptocurrencies. If Justin Sun becomes the Prime Minister of Liberland, that country, that small, very micronation country, will become a place where you would move around crypto. Apologies, everyone. But it will become a place where you would move around crypto, basically. Because if you're asking somebody like Justin Sun to run a country, yeah, you're asking for a lot more. Since I'm not a full member of Liberland, I can say these things. But Justin Sun is going to be using that country as a wallet. A lot of crypto is going to get washed there. Just how, the city of London, so, Washington, D.C. is the political capital of the world as a province. City of London is the money of the world, and the Vatican is the Vatican. Liberland, slowly, if this happens, will become the capital of washing crypto assets. I'll bet my life on it. Now, from one unusual news to another. The first ever crypto project to be approved fully by a US department, a US government department, has just happened. But it's an unusual news. Before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. If you have any sort of questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'm reading everyone's comments one by one. Do not be shy. Get involved inside the comment section. Let's see what we got going on. What a great time for a dollar to be shown. Lol. Yep. Already read that one. Exactly. Zombie. Yes. Yep. Cryptocurrencies for the win. We are done with this inflated fiat that is run by the... let's go, Stormy. Landers, how you doing? People get rid of their bonds quick enough. Yeah. What can we expect from 2025? A lot of things will be happening in 2025. George, hi, Miles of CMF. Good to see you as well. How you doing, George? Daniel, it seems like 2025 will come. The market will still be fitting to rise up. Can you explain to me where we are with the Ripple case, please? As I am... can you explain to me where we are with the Ripple case, please, as I am Kamala? Or as I am Kamala, so as in explain to you, as in dumb it down of, you know, where we are inside the Ripple case, like your Kamala. Okay, how should I start this off? If I was going to speak to Kamala Harris, I would have to really dumb it down. I would start off by saying, you know, I'm from a middle class family, and middle class loans. I'm just joking with you. I'm not going to be doing that, but that is how she answers questions. But what I would say is to dumb it down regarding the Ripple case is the SEC doesn't want to let go because the SEC lost the entire Ripple case, so they want to appeal it to buy some more time for themselves if it's a genuine case. The appeal will definitely get tossed out if it's a genuine case. If it's not a genuine case and it's just one big show, then the case might continue a little bit more to buy time for the banking systems. So the two outcomes are: one, SEC versus Ripple is a genuine case, and if it is, then the SEC is trying to buy it. The SEC is just doing it out of spite because they lost everything. The Ripple case is a very big case for the SEC. It makes the SEC look useless. The ending verdict of essentially the Ripple case for the SEC was terrible for the SEC, and a lot of people still claim Ripple lost against the SEC, but what I've said many times is winners don't appeal cases, losers appeal cases. And in this case, Ripple did not appeal the case, the SEC did. Therefore, winners don't appeal cases, Ripple, essentially, losers do. But outcome number one, this is a genuine case, and the SEC is just doing this out of spite. And everybody inside the SEC, the majority of employees inside the SEC actually do not respect Gary Gensler. A lot of them have came out recently and spoken in front of Congress against Gary Gensler. Even today, another SEC member came out on live news and said, basically, Gary Gensler is incompetent. The second outcome, if this is one big show, Ripple and SEC is just one big show, then they're just buying time for each other, essentially. Now, 5 trillion crypto market caps, like Brad predicted in 2024, will not happen, maybe 3.5 max. At this point, I'm just going to see if the markets will finally be going up. They will be. He worked at Ripple. Vitalik also supports that land as well, Liberland, yep. There's a lot more to this story regarding Liberland, yep. So close to Montenegro and so convenient, exactly. Good evening, Miles of CMF. Free and favor, good to see you. How you doing? Now I'm sure you are AI powered. Bless you. Thank you so much, Stormy. EU will destroy it regarding Liberland, possibility. Like Island of Man. Yeah, it's like the Island of Man, yeah. Hello, Nathan. How you doing? I saw TikTok video. They invited you for citizenship and can register a company there. You saw a TikTok video that they invited you for a citizenship and you can register a company there regarding Liberland? You can, yeah. Let's go. Jesus is King. Let's go, Matt. How you doing? Now, here is another unusual news. So moving off the Liberland news, that was crypto related, Justin's son becoming a prime minister, to another unusual crypto news. As I said, the first ever crypto project that was completely green-lighted by the US department. The US government green-lighted a crypto project. No SEC troubles, nothing like that, no CFTC issues. Here it is. The U.S. Agriculture Department approves a blockchain-based certification system, decentralized cow verification service. Cattle Proofs Verified has become the first ever United States Department of Agriculture's first blockchain-based process verified program. Cattle Proof, a Wyoming-based company using a decentralized digital ledger to record information related to individual cows. Its tech combines the data sent from electronic identification tags attached to individual animals and updates about their condition, location, and other attributes on the blockchain. According to the company Post, Cattle Proof now has the distinction of being the first ever US firm to receive a full approval process. The first ever to be receiving a complete green light from the US government. The USDA's PVP service exists for situations where organizations such as Cattle Proof has to blaze new regulatory ground in order to make its products. As the firm's first to build a decentralized network for monitoring the status of cattle, seeking regulatory guidance, the PVP system allowed Cattle Proof to create and submit a set of voluntary standards for government review. According to Cattle Proof, they are only USDA-approved PVP utilizing a digital ledger. They're the only one essentially green-lighted by the US government, also known as the blockchain. The company also claims to be the only service offering Born in the USA certification for cattle, digital certifications containing a hyperlink to individual animal data, and only USDA PVP integrated with Heartland payments to buy and sell USDA verified cattle direct. The successful acceptance of Cattle Proof's application indicates that it demonstrates compliance with existing regulatory standards in the sector and has impeded the process to ensure compliance in the blockchain and agriculture industries continue to interact. It appears as through the USDA is increasingly accepting blockchain as a foundational technology throughout the agriculture world. So, just to get it right, from, all of these crypto assets, we have, XRP, we have XLM, we have XDC, we have HBAR, we have Solana, we have AVAX, we have Filecoin, we have Chainlink, so many assets inside the crypto space that can bring real change to any country, especially to the United States. And the first project inside the United States to get a complete green light is a blockchain project for cows. How does a blockchain project for cows get a full green light? No issues with the SEC. Gary Gensler's not coming out and calling this cow project a security. No CFTC issues, just full green light, full license to do whatever you want. How does a blockchain for cows, for herding cattle, get a full green light and full licensings and no CFTC and SEC issues? But XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, Solana, AVAX, and everybody else gets a hurdle. It's really backwards. It's genuinely backwards. That's a cow blockchain gets a green light. Cattle blockchain gets a green light. And nobody's suing them. The SEC, Gary Gensler, nothing. But if you want to go and check it out, I don't know if it is available to the retail section, but you can go and check it out probably if you want to. It's called Cattle Proof. The first ever blockchain in the United States to get a full green light. No SEC issues, no CFTC issues, full green light. Cattle Proof. A cow blockchain. We have tokenization projects, we have data projects, we have AI projects, we have Web3 projects that are amazing. And a cow blockchain gets the first green light. A cow. And on the topic of the SEC being incredibly incompetent and useless, an SEC member makes shocking cryptocurrency confessions. It was a disaster, he said. A member of the SEC has came out today against Gary Gensler to say to the entire world that he's useless. I can see that. If we have a cow project green-lighted, but Chainlink, XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, Solana, AVAX, They're all struggling to get some sort of a green light from the SEC, but a cattle project for cows is full green lighted. I can see the struggle, I'll be honest. It's showing all signs. We're going to go through that regarding the SEC member coming out today, talking about Gary Gensler. But before we go through the SEC member news, let's go inside the comment section first. If you have any questions, put them down. I'm reading everybody's questions one by one. Hello, Miles and family. Good to see you as well. Troy, how you doing? Grand Rising. Ray, good to see you as well. How you doing? Because they want to own all the cows and make us eat bugs. Lol. Probably by the looks of it. It's backwards because they are corrupt. Facts. Because Kamala is a cow. Because Kamala is a cow. Funky brother, that's because it's yeah, not cow. 100. This show XRP case. This is a show XRP case. SEC needs to be sued. Cattle-proof BS. And when people look into the right side, they pass by the left. That's why it sounded confusing. All facts, not a whole lot of things make sense in the government here in the States. Literally everyone else, our government clearly does not represent the people. Gene modification? Maybe. Gene modification, blockchain for cows? Bill Gates must be behind the cow project. I would not be surprised if Bill Gates is behind the only blockchain project green-lighted by the US government fully, and it is a cow project. A cow project. It's just crazy. Now, SEC. Knowing how incompetent the SEC is, more members are coming out and talking against Gary Gensler. SEC member makes a shocking cryptocurrency confession. It was a disaster, he said. Mark, known for his moderate, essentially, approach towards the cryptocurrency industry within the SEC, made an important announcement today against the SEC while working for the SEC. He said it was a complete disaster. Speaking to the US media outlets, SEC member Mark admitted that the regulator's stance on cryptocurrencies has been a disaster for the entire industry. This member from the SEC is basically saying Gary Gensler is incompetent. He acknowledged that the SEC has no clear guidelines on how crypto companies should operate under the law, and noted that the courts have been forced to interpret regulations instead of the SEC, which has produced mixed results. Even Mark is coming out from the SEC and saying the SEC is not doing their job by essentially creating regulations and is letting the courts decide the regulations for them. He said, I think the policies and approach we have been taking over the last few years have been a real disaster for the entire crypto industry, Mark said on live news. He said, we're sending this policy for enforcements, but we've done nothing to provide guidance on crypto. And as a result, the courts have gotten through it. And different courts have made different decisions. Finally, Mark declined to comment on the SEC's Wells notice to Crypto.com and the exchange's lawsuit against the SEC, saying, I'm not going to comment on the specifications of this case. This case is a part of a broader frustration that we haven't provided guidance on what we can or can't do, and how to register if you're involved in some kind of securities offerings, how to be regulated as a broker deal, how to register as an exchange. Mark is spitting absolute facts right now, pure facts, where the SEC hasn't provided anything. Gary Gensler goes around and tells everybody on every news channel, if you want to operate as a crypto asset firm inside the United States as a broker, you need to come to us and register. And when everybody goes to the SEC to register, what happens? They get sued. Ripple went to the SEC to get registered. What happened? They got sued. Coinbase, sued. Crypto.com, sued. Consensus, sued. Kraken, sued. I can go on for days. The SEC tells everybody to come to us if you want to register. They go to the SEC, they get sued the next day. So Mark is spitting absolute facts here. The SEC needs to provide clear guidance, Mark said, and interpretations on what exactly falls within the scope of the securities laws and what doesn't, Mark said. When asked what the SEC should do about crypto, experts said they essentially viewed SEC member Mark comments as a clear admission of shortcomings and mistakes by the SEC under Chairman Gary Gensler's leadership. As is known, Mark is also one of the SEC members who is a cryptocurrency supporter and supported the approval of decisions of spot Bitcoin ETFs back in January. Mark is somebody that works for the SEC right now. He came out today on live news and said to the entire world, the SEC doesn't know what the F they're doing. Gary Gensler doesn't know what the F he's doing. We have zero guidelines. All we do is take crypto projects to the courts for no apparent reason, and we get different responses from every judge, which creates even more confusion for the crypto space. And do you want to know the funny part about this story of Mark today, as a member of the SEC, going on live news, telling the entire world Gary Gensler is incompetent? Today, the same day that Mark did this, is the same day that today the SEC sues another crypto market maker, Cumberland, DRW. The US Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, said Cumberland DRW was an unregistered securities dealer in a lawsuit, alleging that the crypto firm maker bought and sold cryptocurrencies that were sold as unregistered securities. The SEC alleged today that Cumberland used its research reports and update emails to promote investors and different cryptocurrencies, naming Polygon, Matic, Solana, Atom, Algo, Filecoin, and a few others are securities. Public statements by the issuers and promoters of Cumberland's traded assets included statements transmitted by the Cumberland essentially and the third-party crypto asset trading platforms that Cumberland uses would have led objective investors to reasonably view the offer to purchase or sell of each of the Cumberland traded assets as offers to purchase and sell investment contracts, which are securities, according to the SEC. These investors expected to profit, the SEC alleged. However, Cumberland did not register as an SEC securities dealer. The SEC has a few previous suits, went through the 5 examples cryptocurrencies, laid out its arguments and for how these assets look like securities, pointing to the public statements from the projects, founders and white papers, and Cumberland's own statements about different assets. As one example, the SEC alleged Cumberland promoted Atom through an email sent to counterparties on February 20th, 2023, and stated at the moment one of the smaller gains in the sector outside of Ethereum and EOS has been Atom. Atom is only up 53%. Despite strong fundamentals and healthy developer community, its name where we expect to see a catch-up rally if crypto remains. The SEC is seeking a permanent injunction of proceeds, the suit said. However, Cumberland pushed back against the suit on social media on posts on X. They said, "We are not making any changes to our business operations or assets in which we provide liquidity as a result of this action by the SEC. We are confident in our strong compliance framework and disciplined adherence to all known rules and regulations. Even as they have been more targets, it wasn't long enough for ETH, who was claimed to be a security," the post said. So, the same day, essentially, the same day that an SEC member goes on live news and says Gary Gensler is incompetent, Gary Gensler doesn't know what he's doing, the SEC has no guidelines, the SEC tells everybody to sign up with their crypto platforms but doesn't have any rules and regulations, is the same day Gary Gensler decides to sue another crypto platform and named 5 crypto projects as securities. I mean, what can you say about that? The same day, he couldn't wait until tomorrow. It's very similar to the Ripple appeal situation. The same day the Ripple appeal situation happened was the same day Congress was grilling Gary Gensler. And his own employees were also grilling Gary Gensler in front of Congress. And what does Gary Gensler do? Goes back to the office and files an appeal against Ripple. It's like the same situation on repeat. This man, he's too loose. Now, what we're going to talk about next is Australia, Canada, and Colombia regarding the matter of CBDCs. But before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first. If you have any questions, put them down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to help you out. Let's go. Let's see what we're going through. Bill Gates must be behind the cow project. Bill Gates, yep. As soon as Trump takes office, Gates is going to jail. Gary Gensler or Bill Gates here. This is a good test for livestock exchange, which is a huge business like stock exchange for businesses, but for agriculture. It's a brilliant business, no doubt about it. Regarding the cattle-proof cow project, there's no doubt about it. It's a great idea for business, but why does that get a green press and the rest don't, is what the issue is. It's just down to manipulation, corruption. What is the token for it? It may be worth looking for. It's called cattle-proof. What can we expect in 2025 from crypto? A lot of things in 2025. So in 2025, a lot of countries are going to be launching their CBDC. So the EU is going to be launching their CBDC in test phases. Russian ruble is going to be coming out. The Russian CBDC is going to be coming out in 2025 as well. If BRICS is still a thing in 2025, it's going to be a lot more advanced. A lot more countries will be joining it. A lot more countries should be trading in their own local currencies and BRICS as well, mostly in Chinese yuan. A few Latin American countries, Brazil is going to be launching in 2025 as well. India is going to expand on their CBDC. China is going to expand on their CBDC. Cross-border payments will be happening in 2025. So CBDCs will be on a large scale in 2025. Cross-border payments will start to be happening in 2025 in terms of cross-border payments. Geopolitical tensions will still be rising in the Middle East because of the Iranian government. A lot of things are going to be happening around the world inside the crypto space. But the world... 2024 was the year of paperwork. 2024 was the start of the world shifting into a digital era, is what I've always said, and I'll stand by it. Because in 2024, we had Bitcoin ETFs inside the United States and a few other jurisdictions around the world. We had Ethereum ETFs, we had Solana ETFs in different jurisdictions. In 2024, we also had regulations and policies coming out, the EU, MiCA regulations. We had regulations coming out of the essentially United Arab Emirates, regulations coming out of Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Singapore, Japan, Australia, South Korea. A lot of countries came out with regulations and policies this year. A lot of banks joined the crypto space this year. Visa and MasterCard excelled to a whole nother level this year. Massive institutions joined the crypto space this year as well. A lot of developments happened this year. A lot of contracts were signed this year. A lot of licensings were happening this year. 2024, in 2023, I said 2024 is going to be the start of the world transforming into a digital era, which has happened. With the banks and institutions, the licensing, the paperwork and policies and regulations. 2025 will be a lot more into that stage with the CBDC releases from a lot of countries. We're going to have a lot of CBDC releases from Russian ruble is coming out 2025. Brazil's Drex CBDC is coming out in 2025. And the EU's, essentially Europe CBDC is coming out in 2025 in test stages. That's coming out in 2025. India's expanding their CBDCs. A lot of these Middle Eastern countries are coming out with their CBDCs as well on test trials, but they're still releasing it. A lot of things were going to be happening in 2025. But 2024 was the start of everything. So a lot of things we can explain in 2025. All of this Gary Gensler slowdown activity is all planned, I believe, because look, so many countries just not ready for CBDCs. Crypto is too fast. They have to slow it down. Gary thinks he's a gangster. His power-hungry ego is going down soon, and I don't think his fragile ego can handle the public embarrassment. It's better for the SEC to look bad. Most people don't know who they are versing. The whole crypto industry to look slow and questioned by countries like Canada. Please make me understand securities coins. It's an investment contract. It's difficult to explain to simple it down, but direct message me. I'll give you a simple statement on the matter. Again now, because it's going to be a long live, let's start going into securities for you. Again now, our securities, didn't Gary come out not too long ago saying, I'm sorry? He did. He said what's around the crypto asset makes a security, not the crypto asset itself. And he apologized on that matter as well for the confusion. The SEC apologized. Also, approving the cattle process first makes crypto not look so serious in the eyes of the average person. It's all the master plan. I have a solution for the SEC. All 24,000 cryptos to sue the SEC to keep them busy for the next 5 years. Plan. Have Ripple appealed? Yes, Ripple has appealed, and we're going to go through that on tonight's live as well. Ripple has appealed. Yes. So regarding the SEC appealing the case, Ripple has actually appealed today, and we're going to go through that on tonight's live as well. Now, what we're going to talk about next is Australia, Canada, and Colombia. Australia, Canada, and Colombia were right to pause their CBDC plans. So I'll read you this, and then give you the two outcomes. Australia, Canada, and Colombia are pumping the brakes on the plans to central bank digital currency CBDCs. But the opposition isn't just coming from citizens on the ground. Rather, this time it is the central banks that are voicing concerns. Other central banks should take notice and follow suit. There is no clear public interest case to issue a retail CBDC in Australia in the recent report. Similarly, the Banco de la República, the Bank of essentially Colombia, Central Bank Colombia, published a report and said there are no sufficient reasonings for the issuance of a CBDC, retail or wholesale. In Colombia, for its part, the Bank of Canada said it is scaling down its works on the retail bank central bank digital currency and shifting its focus to a broader payment system, research, and policy development. The central banks described a few reasons for pumping their brakes. First, most officials seem to recognize that people are generally well served by the existing options in the private sector. Sure, there are problems, but mobile banking, payment apps, cryptocurrencies, and the likes have offered people an ever-growing suite of options to choose from. Choke point 2.0 is essentially hurting Kamala Harris's crypto reset. The second, speaking of the available options, the central banks also expressed concerns that introducing a CBDC would undermine the traditional financial system. In short, the introduction of a CBDC could increase the chance of bank runs, reduce the number of deposits available to banks, and ultimately destabilize the financial system. Okay, what they mean by just that one paragraph. Now I'm going to read you the rest as well, because this is coming from the Bank of Brazil, the Bank of Canada, the Bank of Colombia, and the Bank of Australia. But what they mean regarding the banking system is going to go through turbulence if we go to those CBDCs is very simple. So how it works and how a bank makes money. It's very simple. You go to the bank and deposit your cash. The bank will then take that cash and trade on your money, which they'll make a profit on. And whenever you need your money, they'll give it back to you. But the bank will also lend out your money, make a profit on top, trade on your money, make a profit on top, invest your money, make a profit on top. So the bank will use your money to make money. It's very simple of how the banking system works. They also do fractional reserves as well, where they can print their own money as well to a certain extent. But that's what they do. Now, it seems like the banks have caught on to the idea that if they do a CBDC world, how can the bank make money? You see, the only way a bank makes money is by using your money to make more money. Now, let's just assume everybody has a CBDC wallet. Everybody has their own CBDC wallet. The bank won't have access to your CBDC wallet to trade on that CBDC money. So that's one source of income down the toilet for the banks. What the banks can do as a secondary option is offer you services. So if you want to borrow against your CBDCs probably later on, or borrow against your stablecoins or so on, your crypto assets, you will then put your money or your assets in banks and then borrow against it and so on. But not everybody around the world is going to be borrowing against their crypto assets. Not everybody around the world is going to be lending and borrowing money from the banks in a CBDC world, which means the banks will struggle to make ends meet, because a bank would use your cash to trade, make a profit, your cash to lend it to somebody else to make a profit, your cash to borrow it to somebody else, or your cash to invest it somewhere. But they can't do that in a CBDC world. They can't lend out your CBDCs if you have your own CBDC wallet, which means the banks will struggle to survive on a large scale unless the banks provide wallet services. So officially, the banks will turn into fintech companies somewhere down the line, which is what's actually happening if you think about it. A lot of banks are going to be offering services, which they are already. HSBC Bank is slowly turning into a fintech company. HSBC Bank is going to be doing borrowing, lending services, and so on crypto assets. HSBC Bank is also signed up for CBDCs. They've signed up for many crypto. They've partnered with many blockchain companies to stay relevant. Sooner or later, banks will have to be turning into fintech wallet companies to provide you services like lending and borrowing to survive as a bank. Because the old ways of how a bank would operate, which is you deposit cash, they use that cash to trade to make a profit, or lend it to somebody else to make a profit, or invest it somewhere to make a profit. They can't do that in the CBDC world, which means one of their biggest sources of income is about to go away. Unless these banks turn into fintech wallet companies and provide you lending and borrowing services to make a fee on top of your crypto assets, or make a fee on top of your CBDC money. So one of the biggest sources of money for banks is about to go away. And the banks will start to catch on. Okay, maybe we're rushing into this too fast because we're about to lose a lot of money. But they have no choice. Nobody has a choice, not even the banks. Which could also explain why Brazil, when they're releasing their CBDC in Brazil, the CBDC Drex, they're calling it. They're calling the CBDC Drex. Brazil is going to be launching their CBDC next year. 2025 is when the CBDC from Brazil comes out. The Bank of International Settlements applauded the Brazilian CBDC, said it's an amazing idea. You fast-tracked all the way through it. And what the Brazilian CBDC is going to be providing is, as I said previously, one wallet. So, you know, how a regular person would have a Chase bank account app on their iPhones, they would have a Lloyd's Bank on their iPhones, essentially a NatWest Bank or Santander Bank or a Barclays Bank account on their iPhones, a few different apps for their banks. Everybody has that. Well, in Brazil, starting 2025, they're going to make it a one bank app, where the Brazilian government said you don't need to have 5 or 6 different bank apps on your phone. All you need is one, and that's the Brazilian CBDC wallet. Explains why essentially Canada and Australia and Colombia are thinking, well, hang on a minute, if we start doing that, how are we going to trade on people's money? Third and finally, the potential elimination of cash will also come up if they introduce CBDCs. Remember when centralized banks were saying, or essentially the Bank of International Settlements said that, don't worry, cash will work alongside CBDCs. That's just how it's going to operate. Cash will be alongside CBDCs. And I said, no, it isn't. Well, it looks like the banks, the centralized banks, came to the same conclusion, where they said, hang on a minute, if we release CBDCs, there'll be no more such thing as a cash. While many central banks have argued that CBDCs are needed because cash is falling, the Reserve Bank of Australia warned that the introduction of a CBDC will ultimately smell doom for cash. Regular readers of my work essentially likely recognize some of these concerns. Critics of CBDCs have been writing about the risk to financial privacy, freedom, and markets for years. The Cato Institution's Norbert Michael has long warned that a CBDC would give the federal officials full control over the money going into and coming out of every person's account. Elsewhere, Bitcoin policy institutions, Natalie also and Dan, wrote that the rationales for implementing CBDCs are already well covered by Bitcoin and stablecoins. And Circles Dennett essentially wrote, with a CBDC central bank would be a backdoor directly into your bank accounts, as well as the means to monitor every digital transaction made. When it comes to CBDCs, the cost far outweigh the benefits for the retail section. Yet, despite a long-standing criticism, it is only relatively recent news that central banks are taking official stances against launching CBDCs. Yes, there have been individual objectives at times. However, official stances have been rare. Just consider the activity documented in Human Rights Foundation's CBDC tracker. Out of the 132 jurisdictions currently featured, very few have changed course. In fact, they've been explicitly told not to, because the Bank of International Settlements is telling these countries, you have no choice. Either you join a CBDC world or you crumble. Around this time in 2023, International Monetary Fund Managing Director described the rise of CBDCs as a voyage that calls for courage and determination as policymakers brave the open waters. She cautioned that this is not the time to turn back and said, if anything, we need to rise another sail to pick up speed towards the CBDC world. However, the news from Australia, Canada, and Colombia shows that not everyone is on board with CBDCs or the International Monetary Fund plans for that matter. The recent statements from these central banks are by no means the final word on that matter. History has shown crisis can quickly lead to radical changes in the way governments operate. And nothing that these central banks has said is binding. However, this news is a welcome change of pace. If nothing else, this news shows that maybe CBDCs are less eventable than some people think. Really not. They're going to be happening. Nicholas Anthony is a policy analyst at the Cato Institution's Center for Monetary and Financial Alternatives and a fellow with the Human Rights Foundation. So, these banks have no issues whatsoever. These banks have no choice. It's either a bank decides to join a CBDC world or a bank gets left behind and crumbles. There's no way around it. And banks, sooner or later, will be turning into fintech wallet companies, CBDC wallet companies, or even crypto wallet companies to provide lending and borrowing services to survive in a digital space. But, yeah, these banks have no choices but to join. Nothing. No choice whatsoever. And, you know, the speech that I gave, which was from the speech that I gave, which was from the monetary fund, the International Monetary Fund Managing Director, Georgieva, basically, I said the same speech. So not me, but I read out this speech in 2023 to everyone, where she came out and said, the rise of CBDCs as a voyage that calls for courage and determination as policymakers brave the open waters. She cautioned that this is not the time to turn back and said, if anything, we need to raise another sail to pick up speed towards the CBDC world. Yeah, there's no stopping CBDCs. Even if, you know, essentially Canada and Australia and Colombia decide to pause their movements, there's no slowing down. But the first outcome is the banks don't like that they can't make a lot of money. And that some banks will have to disappear if they don't join a digital world. So their profits will be cut. The second thing is, as well, they're most likely lying through their teeth, which they are. Because they want to show that they're on your side. The banks want to show that they're on your side, that they're trying to protect your assets. They're trying to protect your money from being in a CBDC world. They're lying through their teeth. The bank's going to care less about you. The banks have never cared about you. If you go to a bank to get your own money out of your bank account, they'll ask you 21 questions. And if you answer the questions incorrectly, they won't give you your own money. When people started protesting in Canada, truck drivers started protesting in Canada, what happened? The bank accounts got frozen. So the banks couldn't care less about you. They care about their own profits, which is about to be cut. And they're not stopping whatsoever. The CBDC is going to be happening. But as long as they keep on telling people, you know, we're slowing down process, people think, oh, well, I have time until the CBDC world happens. You don't have time. Time is your worst enemy right now in the CBDC world. We're continuing towards the CBDC world. People not going to CBDCs is going to anger the WHO and their poly for one world government. Well, that one working banking system is basically it. Let's see where we are. And the banks also make money off the NSF charges. If you bounce a check for $3, they will charge you a flat rate of 38 overdraft fees. Ridiculous, which it is. Sounds like Canadian banks were asleep at the wheel, not realizing they should be prepared for DeFi. Also, Justin Trinidad doesn't want CBDC, sees his legacy as he'll get kicked out soon. Think of the money they are going to gain when they are shut down cash, and the black market doesn't sound like they thought about it for the best of them. Is there any chance CBDCs don't happen in scenario at all, in any scenario at all? Is there any chance a CBDC world doesn't happen? One. But that's never going to happen. The only way to stop a CBDC world is if everybody in this world, everybody, every single human being on this world, in this world, stands up at the same time and goes no to everything. It's the only way a CBDC world will never happen. And that will never happen. Not possible. There's too many brainwashed people in this world, which means that will never happen. It's the only way to stand up to everything that's happening. Every single person stands up in this world, billions of people around the world, every single person being on the same page and saying no to everything, no to high taxes, no to high fuel prices, no to this, no to that. But that will never happen. So which means a CBDC world is 1 billion% guaranteed. That's the only way, and that way will never happen. There's too many brainwashed people in this world, so that scenario will never happen. Who is behind the Bank of International Settlements? 63 centralized countries. 63 centralized banks are a part of the Bank of International Settlements. So it's a constitute of multiple, essentially, centralized bank members. But yeah, that's the only way, and that way will never happen. Now, moving off the central bank digital currency subject, which is why I'm saying you don't have time. Okay, CBDC world is going to be happening 1 billion%, because there's no way in hell we're going to get all these people around the world to be on the same page. It's not going to be possible. So get prepared for a CBDC world is your only option. After BlackRock, giant investment company Fidelity takes the expected cryptocurrency step. Fidelity Investments, one of the world's largest asset management firms, is set to introduce a money market fund that could eventually run on blockchain, signaling its latest move to embrace innovative technology. Fidelity is about to take a whole nother step inside the crypto space. Fidelity outlined its fund plan. This first time the initiative has been publicly announced. According to the documents filed with the US Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, by launching the fund, Fidelity aims to compete with BlackRock, the world's largest money manager, which already has a similar blockchain-based fund going on as well. BlackRock's offering has proven successful, attracting more than $500 million in investments. It's talking about their build fund. If successful, Fidelity's blockchain integrated fund could increase the speed and efficiency of financial transactions, making it easier for a broader range of investors to participate. Fidelity is about to be competing with BlackRock, essentially creating their own build fund, which is going to be adding a lot more eyes from Wall Street being inside the crypto space. More money will be entering the crypto space for one particular asset, but it will range out. So in all sense, it is a new milestone for Fidelity, and it is a great news for crypto assets in general. Okay, so it will never happen. No. Now, moving off Fidelity's new milestone of creating a build fund to Thailand. Thailand's SEC proposes crypto investment options for mutual and private funds. The Securities and Exchange Commission in Thailand is taking steps to broaden cryptocurrency investment opportunities for mutual and private funds, aiming to support the country's growing digital sector. The proposal announced today seeks to introduce regulatory frameworks that would enable these funds to allocate investments in digital assets, such as investment tokens and exchange-traded funds, ETFs, listed on US stock markets, according to a report from the Bangkok Post. One of the primary aspects of the proposal involves treating, essentially, investment tokens similarly to traditional securities like stocks and bonds due to their comparable levels of risk. This would enable asset managers and security firms to create and offer new investment products to institutional clients and high net worth investments. However, there would be certain limitations for retail mutual funds, capping their exposure to digital assets at 15%, In contrast, institutional and high net worth investors would not face these restrictions, allowing for greater flexibility in their crypto-related investments. The SEC's Deputy Secretary General noted that additional criteria will be established later in the year to align with the regulations for mutual and private funds handling digital assets in Thailand. The proposed changes will address issues related to information, disclosures, and the safety custody of digital assets. To manage varying levels of investment risk, the SEC plans to categorize digital assets according to their risk profiles. For instance, high-risk assets such as Bitcoin will be governed by distinct guidelines, whereas stablecoins might be subject to a separate set of regulations. The regulatory body is open to receiving public comments on this proposal until November 8, 2024. In conjunction with these developments, the SEC is also contemplating allowing initial coin offerings, ICO protocols, to outsource essentially specific functions such as fundraising or project designs of crypto projects in Thailand. If they lack the resources to handle this internally, the initiatives, however, would require a public hearing before being implemented. Despite these potential avenues for expanding crypto exposures, the SEC is also reinforcing certain regulatory measures to maintain market integrity. Stricter penalties are expected to be introduced for practices such as market manipulation and naked short sellings. Penalties for improper trading orders issued by security firms are set to increase from 1 million baht to 3 million baht fines. And firms involved in severe essentially infractions could risk having their licenses suspended and revoked altogether. These recent moves are a part of a broader pro-crypto strategy that Thai regulators have been pursuing. Earlier in the year, the Thai cabinet approved a tax exemption on cryptocurrency earnings in an effort to make the country's market more competitive on a global scale. In August, the SEC launched a digital asset regulatory sandbox, which allows 10 private companies to test their exchanges of digital tokens and cryptocurrencies for the Thai baht. The goal is to eventually create a legal framework for using cryptocurrencies as a method of payment, although crypto payments are still restricted by the Bank of Thailand. As of October 2024, discussions are ongoing between the SEC. So the SEC of Thailand is about to bring out a set of regulations for crypto assets. Regulations for how crypto assets should be sold and brought and lent and so on. How ICOs, people starting up their own crypto projects, getting fundings, how they should be set out, how stablecoins regulations should be and so on. So it's basically an SEC department that's doing their job. Very simple way to put it. Unlike the Gary Gensler squad, a team of morons. But the SEC in Thailand has decided to, no, we need to start bringing out regulations now. We're going to bring out regulations for normal crypto projects, for stable coins, for essentially DeFi space, for lending, borrowing, for people who want to start up crypto projects. For every single part of the crypto space, we're going to have regulations. And whoever wants to join the Thailand banking system can apply as well. So let's see who Thailand chooses for their banking system. But yes, it's nice to see an SEC department doing their work for once. If it's not one big show. If it is one big show, then I completely understand regarding the SEC matter. But if it isn't one big show, then they are definitely incompetent. Is there any chance of CBDC? I already read that. I read that as well. Okay, so it will never happen if so. Some people think they are dogs. CBDCs will happen. Yeah, they will definitely happen, 100%. Why, when I say to someone, you are brainwashed, my comment getting removed, and I get a warning happen on TikTok and Instagram? I'll be honest, I don't know why that happens on TikTok and Instagram. I understand why it happens on TikTok. TikTok is a very sensitive place. TikTok goes about and says, TikTok is for freedom of speech and TikTok is for human rights and so on. TikTok's full of BS. I used to do this live on TikTok a while ago, a very while ago, 2023. In 2023, I used to do this live on TikTok. And TikTok banned me for talking about CBDCs. They banned me multiple times for talking about CBDCs. Yeah, TikTok is the worst place to be on. If you want to talk about, genuine issues happening around the world, TikTok is the worst place to talk about anything. If you want to do funny videos or dancing videos, TikTok, best place for that. But if you want to create serious content on TikTok, when you're talking about things that really matter and you hit the nail on the head, that's when you get a warning from TikTok. But if you're, I've seen a lot of people on TikTok who create videos and they talk and they think they're talking about genuine issues around the world, but their information hasn't hit the nail on the head. The moment your information hits the nail on the head is when TikTok will give you a warning. Just to point that out as well, because there's a lot of people on TikTok who, create a lot of content and they think they're saying genuine things that's really happening around the world or is going to happen, but they have no warnings. It's because they haven't hit the nail on the head yet. Once you do, you get a warning. Now, telling you that from experience. Every time I talked about CBDCs and when I hit the nail on the head, warning. What we're going to talk about next is 12 countries. 12 countries are going to be dropping the US dollar. They conduct majority of trade in local currencies while eyeing crypto. Now, you might be thinking this is BRICS related. No. It's something similar to BRICS, though, regarding 12 countries dropping the US dollar. The Commonwealth of Independent States, the CIS, consisting of 12 countries, now conducts most of its trades with local fiat currencies. This move aligns with the BRICS alliance de-dollarization efforts to dump the US dollar for trade settlements. So what they're doing, these particular countries, it's similar to what BRICS is doing, because it's not just BRICS that's doing this. So everybody inside the crypto space thinks BRICS is the only one that exists trying to create their own payment system. BRICS is not the only group trying to create their own payment system. There's another group called the ASEAN group, which is full of other Asian countries, Singapore and so on, and Philippines and so on, that are also creating their own group, which is similar to BRICS, but nobody ever talks about them. They're the ASEAN group. We have the BRICS group, the ASEAN group, and this one going on as well. So the Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS, consisting of 12 countries, now conducts most of its trades with local fiat currencies, similar to what BRICS does. And they're dropping the US dollar. The CIS countries include, are you ready for this? These are the countries that are dropping the US dollar, and none of them are a part of BRICS, but they're similar to BRICS, moving away from the US dollar, but they have their own group. Two countries will shock you. Two countries on this list will shock you. So here it is, because they're in the same group. So here it is. Armenia is one of the countries in this group who is also dropping the US dollar. So Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Georgia, Maldives, Russia. Russia's a part of BRICS, but also a part of this. Tajikistan, Turkmenistan. Here's the one that will shock you. Ukraine and Uzbekistan. But Ukraine, isn't that the same country that's borrowing billions of dollars of US dollars? And they want to do local currencies now. The same country that Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, and Kamala Harris keep on feeding billions to is the same country moving away from the US dollar. The UK, essentially, president or prime minister, the same man who keeps on begging for more money, begging for more US dollars, is the same man moving away from the US dollars, who wants to use local currencies. On the other hand, there's also the BRICS nations, initially including Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, This year, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates have also joined the bloc. But Ukraine and Russia are in the same group. Ukraine and Russia are in the same group of another group who are also dropping the US dollar. Ukraine and Russia are in a war, but they're in the same group. A group to go against the US dollars. The same country, Ukraine, who's getting billions in US dollars, is leaving the US dollars to trade in local currencies in a group with Russia. Just let that one sink in. The CIS dumps US dollars for local currencies. Russia, also a member of the BRICS bloc, because Russia is a part of both teams, persuaded the CIS to switch from using the US dollar to national currencies for trade. The other current members concurred with Russia's proposed trade policy, since adapting local currencies would boost their economies. This year, the CIS bloc rarely utilized the US dollar for trade settlements. Instead, the alliance settled for 85% of cross-border transactions in national currencies, adding pressure to the US dollar. 85% of cross-border transactions were in national currencies. Ukraine is a part of this group. Russia's President Vladimir Putin revealed at the CIS summit that BRICS and CIS will collaborate to permanently eliminate the reliance on the US dollar. Putin did a meeting today on news talking about BRICS, and he said the CIS group, which is a collection of Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kazakhstan, Georgia, Maldives, Russia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan, which is the CIS group. And Putin said this group, CIS, and BRICS group should team up together to go against the US dollar. So far, this CIS group has done 85% of their trades in local currencies. And they're on board. Ukraine is on board. Again, same country getting billions from Joe Biden, billions from Kamala Harris. Tell me again, why are people voting for Kamala Harris? Honestly, it's a genuine question. Why are people voting for Kamala Harris? She's sending money to a country that's leaving you behind. She's sending money to a country. Sleepy Joe and the Biden administration, Kamala Harris, are sending money to Ukraine, a country that wants to turn their back on the US, a country that's getting billions of US dollars and wants to turn their back on the US, who still is getting billions from the US. Isn't the US going through some hurricane issues right now, which is devastating to see? The US recently went through a hurricane situation, which the citizens got $750 for. A citizen of the United States, as a family, by the way, just to point it out, each household gets $750. Everybody thought each person gets $750 from that situation happening in the US. No, each household gets $750. Apparently, it's also loaned out. It's not money you get to keep, it's money you have to pay back. Why anybody would vote for Kamala Harris? You are a disgrace to the United States. To your own people, you are a disgrace. Genuinely mean it. If you vote for Kamala Harris, you are a disgrace to your own people. Because the Biden administration and Biden are sending billions of dollars to a country that's going to turn their back on you, while your own people need money. They're getting billions of your taxpaying money and they're turning their back on you. So why would anybody be voting for Kamala Harris? I mean, In the future of the CIS alliance, intends to incorporate crypto for cross-border trade settlements. Cryptocurrencies have been hurdled a new shift to payment services in the last few years. They promise faster, cheaper, and more transparent transactions, especially across borders due to their autonomy and decentralized framework. These CIS countries are going to be using crypto assets, which is brilliant for cryptocurrencies, amazing for cryptocurrencies, these CIS countries. Amazing for crypto assets. But a slap in the face for the US citizens. Because while their own country struggles, a country that they're feeding billions into is about to be turning their back on them. This move is part of the country's attempt to alleviate pressure from Western sanctions while reducing dependency on the US dollar. This development follows the government's legalization of Bitcoin mining back in July. Besides, Bitcoin XRP, which was also stated, has become a major rival to the US dollar. The CIS, those mixture of countries and essentially the BRICS nations, when they're having that meeting, Bitcoin and XRP are becoming a rival to the US dollar. Despite Ripple's ongoing legal challenges with the SEC, the BRICS bloc and Japan are pushing for XRP or Bitcoin adoptions because they're payment systems. In essentially, Ripple's CEO also, Brad, says that XRP is the heart of the financial global systems. It is important to note that BRICS has extended its investigations into using the gold to challenge the US dollar as well. Nonetheless, BRICS and the CIS countries have yet to name any digital assets as their official currency yet. Among member nations, as blockchain and the global financial system progresses, many expect this will happen soon. So, the CIS countries and the BRICS countries are joining forces. One, as I said, one of those countries is going to be shocking you, Ukraine. The same country that's getting fed billions of dollars of US dollars is the same country joining Russia, turning their back on the US dollar. And people would vote for Kamala Harris. Who in their right mind would vote for Kamala Harris, knowing your tax-paying dollars is going to Ukraine, knowing that you don't know this, but you should do now, that Ukraine is going to be joining Russia and BRICS through the CIS and using local currencies to walk away from the US dollar. Who in their right minds will vote for Kamala Harris? It begs the question. Genuinely begs the question. German MP is what we're going to talk about next. German MP Jonah Coulter, has came out and voiced his opinions on Bitcoin. We're going to go through that next, but before we go through that, everybody right now, if you have any questions, go through it inside the comment section. Let's go through some questions before we go through the German MP news and him championing Bitcoin and crypto assets. Let's go inside the comment section. Let's see what's going on. This is a live, by the way. If you're watching this is a live right now. This is episode 178 of the CMF Live. If you want, if you have any questions, don't be shy. Even if you're new inside the crypto space, put your questions down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. What can I do for? Oh, sorry. Ukraine got more US dollars than the US dollars. Ukraine got more than. It's facts, though. It is facts. Sad reality, unless you hold XRP. After live check and PMs, I will send you something to read, analyze, and tell me what you think. No problem, Lena. Definitely check it out. Ukraine got more US dollars than the US dollars. Long, true. What can XRP do for the future? A lot. But what I would say is consider variable change. Also, Russia and Ukraine, two countries, faith, doing war against each other. Funny, isn't it? Ukraine and Russia in a war, but they're both in the CIS group and they're both going against the US dollars. Interesting how that one worked out. Again, if it makes too much sense, then our government won't do it. I heard Florida is trying to get the name changed to Ukraine so we could get some help with the funding. It's not a bad idea. Honestly, if you live inside the United States, and you're not doing too well, there is a very simple solution. Just re-enter the country. They'll give you a house, they'll give you a new phone, they'll give you a car, they'll give you money, they'll give you everything. New bank card, new name. Honestly, it's like a loophole. If you're struggling as a US citizen, just re-enter the country. Because they know the monies need to run out and they have enough US money. Yeah. What regulations can happen for XRP? What regulations need to be happening? Cross-border regulations need to be there. Half of the US citizens are called sleepy people, voting for Sleepy Joe and Goldfish Kamala. When you got an old dumpling and a VP that don't know their own race, yep, that's screwed up situation. Honestly. But, based on Kamal's question, so Kamal asked me, a few questions back. Is there any way for a CBDC not to happen? So Kamal asked me the question, is there any way, he said, is there any chance a CBDC don't happen? I said there's one chance a CBDC doesn't happen. I said if everybody around the world stands up and goes, no to CBDCs, no to high prices, no to all these, nonsense and gas prices, grocery prices, rent prices, mortgage, everybody around the world stands up on the same page and goes no to everything. That's the only way to go against CBDCs or anything else that matters for you. And I said, that will never happen because, the reasoning is, there are people voting for Kamala Harris. What more reasonings would you want more than that? There are people voting for Kamala Harris who's sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, who is going to be turning their back on the US and teaming up with Russia. Do you need more of a reasoning of why CBDCs will happen 1 billion%? Because the majority of people around the world are, brainwashed. So, it's just not possible. So that's why I say CBDCs. And this is how you can see CBDCs will 1 billion% happen. Now you can virtually see it. CBDCs will 1 billion% happen. It's fully viewable right now. This is why I say, that one chance, never going to happen. Half of the US citizens are called sleepy people, voting for Sleepy Joe and Goldfish Kamala. When you got an old dumpling and a VP, don't know their race, yep, that's a screwed up situation. America really needs to wake up. Will they have their own coin? They're going to be joining BRICS, so whatever BRICS is theirs. Here's the thing, though, about BRICS. Everybody assumes BRICS is going to be having a coin to use. That's incorrect. What BRICS is trying to create is a payment system, not their own coin. They're trying to create, they are creating their own, essentially, digital versions of their own money, but they're creating a payment system, which means something needs to be the middleman of this payment system. So, we know what it's going to be. It's going to be the XRP ledger. There's no way around it. Because they're going to be using their own CBDC money, retail and wholesale CBDCs, Russian digital ruble CBDCs coming out next year. So they're going to be using their CBDC money for cross-border payments. And who do we know inside the crypto space that has an active CBDC platform that is being used with multiple CBDC awards? Ripple, XRP Ledger, XRP. They are both dragging their country. That's what I would say, Lina. It's not about their own coin. It's not about they will have their own coin. Each country will be using their own fiat currencies in a digital form as a CBDC. But there needs to be a relay system between them. The relay system is going to be that. They are both dragging their country down financially. Yep. What will back it up? That's what will back it up. One question: if America and Russia are enemies, way never ever in history, they didn't have a war against each other. No, they had wars on different land, but not their own lands. If I hold 10,000 XRP, well, there's enough. It's a great amount. Doesn't mean that the CIS countries are indirectly sovereigns and debt-free. Not debt-free, I wouldn't say that, but they are their own countries. I mean, they're genuine countries. Uzbekistan is a country, Kazakhstan is a country, Georgia is a country, Ukraine is a country, Russia is a country. They're not debt-free in any sort of way, no. Biden is also Ukraine might be debt-free with the amount of billions they have, but the rest not so much. Biden is also supporting Israel committing genocide against persons, innocent civilians are being slaughtered. German MP. Oops. German MP is what we're going to talk about next. German MP Jonah Carter champions Bitcoin as a national asset for economic freedom. German parliament member Jonah Carter has made headlines with her strong endorsement of Bitcoin as a national reserve asset. In a recent statement, she emphasized that a well-structured Bitcoin strategy could transform a nation, noting that inflation steals money from people every month. Carter emphasized the role of Bitcoin could play in the midst of such a financial challenges. Her request was the European Central Bank's back an inflation rate of 2%. Carter essentially talked about the importance of financial freedoms for individuals. She believes Bitcoin can reclaim economic sovereignty. She also stressed how Bitcoin may improve financial inclusion, especially in developing countries. These countries can now make use of their unattainable economic prospects by using Bitcoin. As a result, the change brought about Bitcoin is not merely theoretical, it essentially has its own practical ramifications. Moreover, Carter proposed that instead of hastily liquidating its Bitcoin holdings, the German government should explore Bitcoin's utility as a national reserve. This strategy would allow Germany to diversify its treasury assets and hedge against inflation. Additionally, she acknowledged the need to address illegal activities involving Bitcoin. However, she stressed that any regulatory measures should not hinder innovation or the financial freedom of Bitcoin offers. Carter also urged her fellow parliament members to join the Bitcoin in the Bitcoin Pakistan initiative. This program aims to educate legislators about Bitcoin's benefits and potential use cases. By fostering a better understanding of Bitcoin, the parliament can make more informed decisions regarding digital assets. Despite her enthusiasm for Bitcoin, Carter has voiced strong opposition to the digital euro CBDC. She believes CBDCs present financial and privacy risk. Furthermore, Carter advocacy comes against the backdrop of Germany's liquidation of its Bitcoin holdings. The government sold 3,846 Bitcoins on July 12, following the offboarding of tens of thousands of Bitcoins over previous weeks. So Germany is looking into Bitcoin again, apparently from one parliament member. But Germany also has a Bitcoin parliamentary group, if you didn't know that, now you know, which was formed a week ago. But apparently, there's one politician that's came out of nowhere, there's one MP has came out and said, Germany should start looking more into Bitcoin, we should be educating people more into Bitcoin and crypto assets and so on, and Germany should be using Bitcoin as a reserve asset. Which I get. 21 million tokens makes sense, but there is still one wallet holding 1 million tokens, which raises many questions. Because if the price of Bitcoin goes really high, if the price of Bitcoin goes incredibly high, and that one wallet that's holding roughly 1 million Bitcoins essentially, the founder drops it, that can end very bad. Now, which is also probably why a lot of countries are hesitant to use Bitcoin as a reserve asset, because there's one wallet holding too much. What we're going to talk about next is Russia. This might look like Russia's taken it too far, and goes back to what I said. A while ago, I said what's happening is like musical chairs. I said, think of it as musical chairs, that Russia is going around this one seat. So think of it as musical chairs of who wants to take over the world next. And there is one seat, and everybody's played the game musical chairs when they were younger. The younger generation might not know what musical chairs is, but the older generation does. So there's one chair in the middle. Russia is going around it, the US is going around it, and China is going around it, and there's one chair. And when the music stops, somebody has to sit on that chair for a digital world. Well, I said that a while ago. This one's an interesting one. Russia calls on BRICS today in their meeting, calls on the BRICS partners to create an alternative to the International Monetary Fund. BRICS wants to create their own International Monetary Fund. Their own International Monetary Fund. Russia, which chairs the BRICS groups this year, has called on its partners to create an alternative to the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, to counter political pressure from Western nations ahead of the BRICS summits later this month. BRICS, originally comprising Brazil, Russia, India, and China, has expanded to include South Africa, Egypt, and so on, the rest of the countries. Russia's essentially Minister Anton, who is hosting the meeting, said the global financial system is controlled by Western countries, and that the group, which represents 37% of the global economy, needs to create an alternative. The International Monetary Fund and the World Bank are not performing their roles. They are not working in the interest of the BRICS countries, Anton said. At the event, on the first day of the meetings, he said it is necessary to form a new conditions or even new institutions similar to the Bretton Woods institutions, but within the framework of our own community, within the framework of BRICS. Russia had its forex reserves in dollars and euros frozen, and its financial system heavily hit by sanctions by the West after it invaded Ukraine in February 2022. The country is cut off from international capital markets. Russia has recently also experienced delays in international transactions with its trading partners, including BRICS member countries, as banks in these countries fear actions from Western regulators. That's when essentially the US basically is threatening countries for sanctions. Remember when I said the Chinese banks don't want to do dealings with Russia because these Chinese banks are afraid of getting sanctioned, even though, you know, Russia and China are BRICS founding members and local currencies and so on and so on. But in reality, China is still scared to do dealings with Russia because they're afraid of sanctions. And Russia mentioned this today, that our neighboring, essentially, countries, our BRICS members, they actually said our BRICS members are not processing transactions, are not processing our transactions because they're afraid of sanctions. BRICS members. Russia's central bank governor has previously talked about BRICS bridge payment system, which would link member countries' financial systems, but progress has been slow. The only financial institution the BRICS countries have established so far is the New Development Bank, created in 2015 to finance infrastructure and sustainable developments in BRICS members and other emerging economies. So, BRICS thinking about, well, Russia is thinking about creating their own International Monetary Fund, which is crazy to think about it. They want to create their own version of the World Bank, their own version of the International Monetary Fund. So it just goes back to what I said. Think of it as musical chairs. Think of it as musical chairs. Russia is going around this chair. China is going around this chair. And the US is going around this chair. And when the music stops, somebody has to sit on that seat. If the US sits on that seat, then the US will be in charge of a digital future. And some people might think the US will never go digital. It would, and it will. When the music stops, if Russia sits on that seat, then we know what's going to be happening. They want to create their own International Monetary Fund and their own World Bank version. If the music stops and China sits on that seat, then we also know what's going to be happening. China wants to become a replicate of the US. Some people see China as this great country. And even though it is, and the people are absolutely great. And the people from China are amazing. No doubt about it. The people are amazing. The government, but that could be said for any government. Russian people are amazing. I have a lot of Russian friends. But the government, it applies to every country. The government is a bit for every country, but the people are always amazing. But yeah, if the music stops and China takes over, some people think that's a good idea. Some people are tired of the United States government being in control of the entire world, and they just want the US to stop. If the US stops and China takes the lead, do you honestly believe things will be better? Some people out there will think to themselves, yeah, if the US stops and China takes the lead and BRICS becomes big and China is in charge, it's actually better than the US government, is what some people would say. And these people could be educated people as well. They could be very educated, smart individuals who will say these kinds of statements. But even these people still forget about few minor details. One, the Chinese government is a very strict and controlling government. They already control many aspects of their citizens' lives. If you think your freedom of speech, your freedom of rights is right now being stepped on in your Western countries, in the UK, in America, in Canada, and so on, if you, in the EU, if you think your freedom of speech and human rights is right now being stepped on, yeah, believe me, when China becomes in control, you would beg for these types of days back. Sure, we have some difficulties with, freedom of speech issues. They're trying to shut down X, or they're trying to shut down TikTok, or they're trying to shut down whatever. But they haven't. And we still on X. I'm using X right now. So sure, they're trying to, the Western governments are trying to, stop your freedom of speech and your human rights and so on. But they haven't been able to. But China has on their own people for a very long time. Where they banned Google very long time ago, YouTube very long time ago. They have one app for everything pretty much, which is WeChat, which is also a part of the government app. Everybody's fully monitored. CBDCs. China was the first country to release CBDCs. China was the first country to introduce social credit systems. China was the first country to introduce programmable CBDCs. China was the first country to introduce testings on expiring CBDCs. China was the first country to introduce a super SIM card for CBDC, so that even people who use a very, very old phone, like a 2G phone, a 3G phone, a 4G phone, a 5G phone, a 6G phone, can still use CBDC wallets. China was the first country for control in general. So you might think right now your human rights, your freedom of speech is being stepped on in the West, which up to a certain extent it is, no doubt about it. But they still haven't been able to shut down X. They still haven't been able to shut down, TikTok for a while. They've been trying to. But if that musical chair stops and China takes that seat and people are praising and people go, well, you know, I'm tired of the US government. Let's see what China can do. It'll be 10 times worse. They already are a restrictive country. So imagine them in control of everybody else. We're slowly becoming, up to a certain extent, a controlling country. They already are a restricting country. They already are a controlled country. We're heading that way, but they already are. So if they come in control of everybody else and the US goes to the side and China takes that seat, what do you think will happen? Rainbows and sunshines? So I'll look, even today on X, there was a X Spaces page going on, which I joined briefly for. And they were talking about BRICS. And they were talking about BRICS and saying, you know, the US government is going around bullying people, sanctioning countries, trying to make them stay with them. If they don't, they'll sanction them. And that, you know, China and BRICS is going to come along and fix everything. And again, some of these people were incredibly intelligent people, no doubt about it, but they still forgot about a few minor details, which is, yes, sure, the West is a bit controlling, but any day of the week, I will prefer a bit controlling to complete control, which will come out of China. Don't be fooled by China and Russia. And they were actually praising Russia. They were saying, oh, Russia's a great country. Look, every country has its positives and negatives, but don't be fooled by China. They're not who you see. They're not what you see them as. They're controlling their people head to toe. Remember, first country to introduce a CBDC was China. First country to introduce a social credit system was China. First country to, I mean, the list just goes on of controllable ways, of controllable methods for their own people was China. So there are people right now praising China and saying, well, you know, the US has had their time. It's time for some other country to take in charge. Or some people actually believe, even for a second, that BRICS is a collective group of countries coming together. What do you think this is, Hollywood? This isn't La La Land, this is reality. It's about power and greed. If BRICS comes in control, China is going to be taking that lead, which means China will become the new America. As I said, they were the first country to introduce control on all levels. So when people talk about BRICS, remember one simple factor. There's always two sides to every story. Don't just explain one side, which is the rosy side. Explain the other side as well. What we're going to talk about next is Ripple. Moving off BRICS to Ripple. Ripple Labs. Ripple Labs has right now escalated their dispute with the SEC and filed a notice of a cross appeal. There will be a civil war in Ukraine. China was the first country to introduce us to COVID-19. How would it affect XRP? CBDCs are going to affect it positively, but that's going to be happening either way. So if it's the US sitting on that musical chair seat, CBDCs will happen. If it's China sitting on that seat, CBDCs will happen. If Russia sits on that seat where the music stops and musical chairs, CBDCs will still happen, which means XRP still has a future. Either country that sits on that seat, there's still a future for, you know, essentially CBDCs, there's still a future for XRP and so on, because it's part of the Bank of International Settlements. 63 centralized banks on the Bank of International Settlements explains everything. So don't worry, XRP is still going to be running the show no matter what. When the music stops and China sits on that seat, CBDCs still work. Russia sits on that seat, CBDCs will still work. And if the US sits on that seat, CBDCs will work. But the thing is, who's going to sit on that seat? One country is extreme control. The other country is 50-50. And the other country is, essentially the US. So let's see who sits on that seat. But this whole collective basket situation of every country using their own currency is a lot of BS. What's actually going to be happening is the Chinese yuan is going to replace the US dollar, where the Chinese yuan becomes the #1 currency around the world, and everybody else is on the long, joining in for the ride. But Chinese yuan replaces US dollar. That's what will happen. Not collective of baskets coming through, everybody working together like it's some, song and dance film. This is reality. It's about power and greed. Because we the people are essentially amusing. Governments or BS should separate each other on religion, color, etc. Love each other, love everything in the earth. Facts. The people are amazing. No doubt about it. Every person around the world, there's good and bad. But it's the governments that's the issue. But yeah, any day of the week, I would prefer big control than complete control, which is going to come out of China. So don't be fooled by BRICS. Don't be fooled by China, thinking China's some, country that's going to be coming in and liberating everybody. Do not be fooled. We are talking about a government who introduced CBDC. Why do people always forget about the facts? Honestly, this X spaces that was going on earlier when they were talking about BRICS, why do people forget about the facts? China was the first country introducing CBDCs. They were the first country to introduce social credit systems. These are all controlling methods for citizens. And people are saying, China's not a bad country to come in and fix everything. What? Are you lost? Honestly, the reason why the world is the way it is because even the smartest person in the room sometimes is the dumbest person in the room. Ripple Labs escalates this because that BRICS Spaces page, wow. Incredibly intelligent people, but they missed out some major bullet points when they were talking about BRICS earlier on X Spaces. Ripple Labs escalates dispute with SEC, files notice of essentially appeals. Ripple Labs has filed a notice of cross appeal in its ongoing legal battle with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC). Ripple has finally filed in their cross appeal. In an October 10 filing, the U.S. District Court for Southern Districts of New York, Ripple disclosed plans to take its cross appeal to the higher courts, especially the Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. The notice is a legal step to formally register the cross appeal. The Court of Appeals will review both the original appeal by the SEC, which its notice was filed in October 2nd, and Ripple's cross appeal to determine if any legal or procedural errors were made in the decision from August 7th. During that time, a federal judge ordered Ripple Labs to pay essentially $125 million and several penalties for violating securities laws, which is right now being disputed. The regulator previously requested the courts to impose a $2 billion fine against the company, while Ripple argued that any penalties should not exceed $10 million. The legal dispute between the blockchain company and the U.S. financial watchdog started in 2020, when the SEC alleged that Ripple's sales of its cryptocurrencies token XRP constituted unregistered security offerings. In a key decision in July 2023, Judge Alice Torres ruled that while Ripple's sales of XRP to institutional investors violated security laws, while its programmatic sales to the broader public and distributions to employees and developers did not constitute as security sales. The SEC lost on all key points. That's why they appealed. Today, Ripple filed a cross appeal to ensure nothing's left on the table, including the argument that there cannot be an investment contract without there being an essential rights and obligations found in the contract. Ripple's chief legal officer, Stewart, essentially said on X. The Howey test determines whether a transaction qualifies as an investment contract and thus falls under the U.S. securities laws, which is complete BS. According to the test, a transaction is considered an investment contract if it involves an investment of money and a common expertise with expectation of profits derived primarily from the efforts of others. According to the SEC, it will not appeal the rulings that XRP is not a security. They even apologized in another case for suggesting a token itself could be a security, said the executives. That's the law, and that can appeal on those other issues. Didn't change it at all. Both Ripple and the SEC are expected to present further arguments in the coming weeks, following the recent cross-appeal and appealing filings. The timeline for these developments remains uncertain. It's unclear whether the SEC intends to focus only on disputing the fines imposed on Ripple, or it will continue to challenge the broader ruling regarding XRP status. So it's just findings, what they're essentially going for is the findings. But knowing Gary Gensler, you never know. But so far, it's just the findings. In the coming weeks, we will have an answer. In the coming weeks, Ripple and the SEC are going to be going head-to-head. A lot of people said this case will continue to 2026. Everybody's just pulling random dates. In reality, this is how the law system works. In the coming weeks, they're going to be going head-to-head against each other, not in the few years. But that's what's happening right now. Ripple essentially has actually filed in their cross appeal. They're going to go head-to-head with the SEC in the following weeks on their arguments, after everything's been looked at. So all these people that were, tweeting out 2026, 2027 is when the Ripple situation ends. They were just pulling random data. I even said they're doing it for clickbait. They're just pulling random digits out and go, oh, it's going to be 2026 when this case ends. Oh, 2027 when this case ends. No, it isn't. Coming weeks, they're going to be going head-to-head on arguments. Coming weeks, not coming years, weeks. That's how a judicial system works, not the way people describe it on X. Now, Ripple launches after essentially everything has been looked into regarding that cross-appeal and appeal. Also, Ripple launches a crypto custody service. Will this boost the ecosystem? Ripple has introduced a new crypto custody service for banks and fintech firms, expanding its businesses into digital asset storage. The new service aims to let clients store and manage cryptocurrencies securely with XRP Ledger integrated. Ripple is diversifying outside payment settlements and consolidating its custody efforts. The news custody is a division of Ripple that offers secure crypto storage for financial institutions. It has a user-friendly interference, advanced policy settings, and anti-money laundering monitoring. By implementing these features, banks and fintechs can store blockchain digital tokens securely while following today's regulations. However, this new service works through blockchain of its XRP ledger. This gives clients instant access to decentralized exchanges where they can trade using native token XRP, but for lower fees. So people can start keeping their assets secure on a custody service platform that Ripple is offering on the XRP ledger by using the token XRP for fees. Aaron, Senior Vice President of Products at Ripple, mentioned in a media interview with CNBC, with the new features, Ripple Custody is expanding its capabilities to better serve high-growth crypto and fintech businesses with secure and scalable digital asset custody services. The market is seeing rapidly growing demand for crypto storage services, and the firm is joining the fray. The Boston Consulting Group predicts that the global crypto custody market space will reach $16 trillion by 2030. The company aims to compete with established players like Coinbase, Gemini, and Fireblocks. In addition to secure storage, Ripple Custody provides tools to tokenize real-world assets, such as fiat currencies, commodities, and real estate on the XRP ledger. The XRP ledger allows clients to tokenize their assets and trade them with seamlessly while settling on the ledger. According to Ripple, more real-world assets will be tradable as digital tokens. The company said its custody division experienced over 250% customer growth this year, Ripple said. Ripple Custody operates in 7 countries and counts major institutions like. This is the interesting part as well about this whole Ripple thing, because remember when Metaco partnered with HSBC a while ago, a very long time ago? Metaco partnered with HSBC Bank to create a custody platform. And all the XRP haters came out and said, well, it's got nothing to do with Ripple. It's Metaco and HSBC partnering together. It's got nothing to do with Ripple, even though Ripple owns Metaco, acquired Metaco. And the news came out, Metaco partners with HSBC Bank for custody platform, for developments. And all the XRP haters came out and said, well, it's got nothing to do with Ripple. It's Metaco. It's Metaco and HSBC, not Ripple. And I said, morons. Simple. Because if you acquire a company, whatever that company does next, you are a part of that deal. It's very simple. It's like what Volkswagen owns essentially Audi. Audi owns Lamborghini. If Lamborghini does something, it benefits who? Audi. Who does also benefit? Volkswagen. It's very simple. If I buy a company and that company succeeds and does something, I'm also part of that deal. It's not a separate entity. I own the company. So, that was a while ago. And the people that kept on coming out and saying, oh, it's Metaco and HSBC, it's not Ripple, it's not Ripple. These are the same people that go around and say, Ripple's not XRP, XRP is not Ripple. And to those people, I'll still call them morons also. Because those morons, well, here it is. The company said its custody division has experienced over 250% customer growth since this year. Ripple Custody operates in 7 countries and counts major institutions like HSBC for Ripple custodies, Societe Generale and DBS among its clients for Ripple custody, HSBC, Metaco, custody services. News comes out now, Ripple custody services, HSBC. By consolidating its custody offerings under one brand, Ripple, not under Metaco, Ripple. Ripple aims to streamline services for banks and fintechs. Their custody business grew significantly after acquiring crypto storage companies, Metaco. Their custody business grew significantly, Ripple's custody business grew significantly after acquiring crypto storage companies, Metaco and Standard Custody Trust Company. Metaco partners with HSBC, custody service platforms. Ripple announces today we're releasing custody services under one brand, Ripple. So all those morons back then were saying it's Metaco and HSBC, nothing to do with Ripple, sure. Honestly, this is why I say a lot of people don't understand basics, honestly, basic structures of how things operate inside the corporate sector. But they're still giving you an opinion. These acquisitions helped Ripple bolster its custody capabilities and expand into its digital asset storage market presence. You don't say. The company continues to focus on developing new solutions to attract more institutional clients, even though they've got HSBC in their back pocket now and DBS Bank and Societe Generale. Although Ripple is showing growth, it still faces challenges in the market with SEC situation. However, the firm believes its unique integration with the XRP ledger and tokenization capabilities will set it apart. Ripple Custody aims to be compliant, secure, and scalable, and aligned with that the firm finds to be rapidly rising tide of regulatory scrutiny over digital assets. The company states its dedication to following global regulatory standards to ensure secure and compliant storage of cryptocurrencies. So that's massively positive. Massively positive. But it also, once again, morons will be morons. So next time, for those morons that assumed Ripple buying a company and that company doing a business deal has nothing to do with Ripple, well, next time you know what will happen. Honestly. It's just, some people, it's like goldfish brain cells. It's laughable. But the best part is, those people think they're incredibly intelligent. Honestly. But yeah, HSBC, essentially being a part of Metico, now custody platform comes out. It's a part of Ripple. Who knew it was going to be a part of Ripple? Is massive news. So, also, good things must always come to an end, which is now. This was the CMF Live, and we have reached the endings of tonight's episode. You can rewatch the episode if you missed out on all the news that I did share, which we're going to do a little rundown. And the rundown is, we talked about Ripple launching their custody services after all this time. We talked about on tonight's live regarding Ripple's cross appeal. We also went for the news topic on tonight's live regarding Russia wanting to create their own international monetary fund and World Bank. We talked about the German MP essentially praising Bitcoin and thinking we should keep it alone. We also talked about the CIS group, 12 countries joining BRICS, called the CIS and BRICS coming together. One of them is Ukraine, getting billions of dollars from the US government and now turning their back on the US government to drop the US dollars. We also talked about on tonight's live show regarding Thailand's SEC, bringing in essentially regulations and policies to get the ball rolling. We also talked about on tonight's live regarding Fidelity introducing a new milestone and getting involved in the Build Fund, creating their own fund. We also talked about on tonight's live regarding Australia, Canada, and Colombia, thinking on what they should do on their next CBDC movements. We also talked about the SEC suing another crypto project or another crypto platform and declaring Solana a security token, FAO token a security, Atom a security, and a few other crypto projects. We also talked about on tonight's live show regarding the SEC member coming out against Gary Gensler on live news. We also went for the news topic of US agriculture, the first ever crypto project to get a full license inside the United States, no SEC issues, no CFTC issues, is a project called Cattle Proof. It's on the blockchain, and it's for cow data on the blockchain. It's the only crypto project with a green light, with a full license inside the United States, approved by the United States government. Cattle Proof is called. We also talked about Justin's son becoming a prime minister of a country, Liberland, between Croatia and Slovakia. We also talked about ETF investors actually preferring crypto investments over regular ETFs as well, which was essentially a data report by Charles Schwab, which was massive to see that more people prefer, high-profile investors prefer to go towards crypto ETFs or crypto assets rather than bond ETFs. We also talked about tonight's live regarding why the market is down and is due to the CPI reports. So, drop a like, drop a follow if you already haven't. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe if you already haven't. Tune to this live every single night. This was episode 178 of the CMF Live. If you're watching this on X, drop a follow. If you haven't already, drop a retweet, drop a like. Let's get these messages out there. Let's get this live out there and get more people informed of what's actually happening around the world. So, this was CMF Live, and my name was Miles. I go by the persona Crypto Miles, and I share you news every single night. If you watch this for the first time ever, I share you news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, policies, regulations, and even BRICS and AI every single night on the CMF Live, on X, and on YouTube Live. If you enjoyed this live, drop a follow, drop a like, and retweet. And also join the X community pages on the CMF X community pages on X. And join the Telegram group as well if you already haven't. It's completely free. This live is free as well every single night. Starts at 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards. Tune to this live every single night. I will be seeing everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. Good night, Miles, and good night, CMF. Funky Brother, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Take care, Miles and CMF. Ray, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Mike, thank you, Miles and CMF. Good night, sleep well. Let's go, Mike. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. There will be several. I read that one. I read that one as well. Read that one as well. They are all communist countries. I know what communism is. 1,000. Yeah, control. Facts. Funky Brother, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Ray, take care. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Mike, thank you, Miles. See you tomorrow. Have a wonderful night. See you See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Mike, thanks so much, Miles. Have a wonderful night. Stormy, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thank God we have you, Miles. Good night, everyone. Bull XRP, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Thanks, Miles, for all the news. Good night, everyone. Orphan, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Good night, Miles, and all the CMF. Thank you for the news. JP, see you tomorrow, but at the same time as usual. Good night, Miles and family. Ian, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Callie, good night, CMF. God bless all of you. Callie, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Miles, thank you. Miles, with your scenario about when the music stops, who will be in the seat? I'm wondering where the World Economic Forum will be sitting when that occurs. The World Economic Forum will follow around any country that sits on that chair, to be fairly honest. Have a great night and all day, everyone. Troy, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Good night, Miles and CMF. Thanks for all the news. Free and forever. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. See you, brother. Camel, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Good night, Miles. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. I'll be seeing everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual.